Welcome to Drums at Andertons, and today we've got Benny Greb. It's only taken me about 5 years to get you here.
That's very fast.
He's a wanted man, and we're going to explain why he's wanted because of his sound. So let's talk through what we're playing today. Sonar, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. My favorite kit from Sonar is the Vintage series. So it's not their most expensive kit, but it's my favorite. It is built, or it's a reissue, so to speak, of the ones that they built in the 50s and 60s. And they're made exactly the same way. They're made in the same factory with the same tools and to the same specifications. The only thing that they upgraded a little bit, and I'm very happy about that, so it's not original, but it's better, is the tuning lugs. They have the same design. They're called these tear drop lugs, but they have now the tune safe in them. So that means they hold the tension and they don't detune when you play them a little bit harder. So they will stay in tune a little bit better, but still look as classic as they always did. And they have rounded bearing edges, so they're a little bit warmer, a little bit rounder in sound. So that's what I was going for anyway. So I get that with this set wonderfully and beautifully. They tune up very nicely and very easily. I play a 10-inch, 16-inch, and a 20-inch bass drum. And here I have two of my signature snare drums, and that's all I need.
And these are Sonar's most popular snare. And
people have
lots of them. They're
people have great
snares.
taste.
So,
no, I'm very proud of them. They're really very versatile, and I mean, I know everyone says that about their signature instruments, but they really can do a lot of things, and I've heard them in a lot of situations and a lot of studios. So I like them a lot. I play them since they came out. I think 8 years ago they came out, or something like that, and I'm really proud of it. Wonderful, wonderful instruments.
And on the toms, we've got coated emperors, haven't we? So
yes, so my tom drum head configuration is always emperor coated on the top and ambassador coated on the bottom.
On bottom.
So some people sometimes say, "What? You play brushes on the bottom of the?" No, but the coating itself changes the sound a tiny bit. Some people think, "Oh, it's only for brushes," but I like the little less overtones that it gives. It has less of this kind of basketball air sound when you have a basketball at the floor and does this. So that takes it a little bit away and makes it a little bit rounder and warmer again. And the Emperor coated on top is just a little bit thicker. Ambassador coated on bottom is a nice reso head as far as I'm concerned. And so that's for the toms, my main one. For the snares, I would always recommend an Ambassador coated. Can do anything, and it's good for everything, and it's very tunable. And if you want, you can dampen it a little bit too. And I actually, so some people sometimes say, when I dampen the Ambassador, why don't you take a thicker head? But I actually think on the snare especially, it's a feel thing. So if you dampen an Ambassador, it might sound like a thicker head, less overtones, blah, blah, but it still feels a little bit papery, like, that's not a word, right? That's not a proper word, I'm sorry. For me, in my German mind, that makes absolute sense, okay? So, but the feeling is still very responsive, and it feels like a thinner head still. So I like it. It's very flexible. You can't do anything wrong with an Ambassador coated on the drums, on the drums in general, but on the snares especially.
And then on this one, you've got a big fat
yes.
snare.
So that's just the same snare tuned a little bit differently. I mean, this is, it's already deeper, but this big fat snare drum thing just brings it down a little bit more. And because physics, right? There's more mass. It vibrates slower, deeper pitch. So that's what that does. I like it.
And then we've got Bisans mainly.
Yes, well, this is the Sand series mainly. It's a series that I was allowed to design with Meinl, and the first one was this boy here. Is a 20-inch Sand Ride that's now out since maybe 10 years or something like that. And the idea was to get a thinner ride that also has a little bit less overtones. Is not so harsh and shimmery, but is already kind of aged. When you buy it new. So it has this sand-blasted surface, that's why the Sand series, and it's very thin. This is a 22-inch Sand Crash, or Crash Ride, sorry, Sand Crash Ride, and I want to show you this. People always love this. Do you see that? right? So it's very nice and thin and just starts very fast and has these sizzles in it. But the idea was with this as well to get a little bit thinner one, so it's crashable. It has a nice stick definition and a nice, wonderful stick sound, but then with a thicker bell. So
it has quite a pronounced bell.
Yes. For a while I had a thinner ride before this was out. I had a thinner ride to just play a stick sound and crash with, and then I had a little bit thicker one to just use the bell, because that is usually the only disadvantage if you really want to have a very all-round like ride cymbal. If you have a very thin ride cymbal that sounds sweet and wonderful, but then you're missing the bell. So the idea was like, how do I get this sound with a thicker bell? And we accomplished it with that, and I'm very happy with it. I've seen this cymbal also been played by heavy metal bands and jazz bands and everything in between, and of course I play it. And so that was the first one. Then the hi-hat came along. This was a 14-inch version of that. So this is a very thick bottom cymbal and a very thin and sensitive, almost crash kind of 14-inch top cymbal. Also sandblasted with a couple of thick hammer strokes in them and thinner ones. And that makes it very sensitive, but also it can bark and be loud if you want it to. And it's one of the only hi-hats that I know that if you play it very quietly, it still sounds like a hi-hat. It still has this sound, this silvery. Other hi-hats, when you play them quiet, they sometimes sound, they lose that and you only hear the stick touching the metal. It's like, sounds like a garage door. So this doesn't. This is very sensitive and beautiful, and I like that.
These are extra hammered as well, aren't they, compared to other Bizane hi-hats?
Yes, yes.
Something you expect to have extra hammering.
Yeah, they're very nice. And this is an 18-inch, it's the thin crash. I use it stacked with a 14-inch. This was the bottom cymbal of a thing I also came out with mine, a 12-inch, 14-inch trash hat. So it was like this, then with the kind of splash on top. But because it has those holes and those waves, it's really nice to create this sizzly kind of very sizzly kind of sound, a little bit shorter in sustain. So I can use it as a kind of a trashy ride, but still the crash as well. And yeah, the 22 we already talked about. So I use this as a mighty crash, but also as a kind of jazz ride kind of sound. So I can get a lot of sounds out of this like it is. This is two 16-inch trash crashes, just like one on bottom, one on top, with this jingle thingy on top of it. It's a hi-hat tambourine from Meinl, I think. And this is an 8-inch, this is the newest member of the family, also something I came up with. It's the 8-inch trash, no, this is trash, this is crasher hats, they're called. So this is a combination of 4 different cymbals actually. And also sandblasted. This is more like a normal kind of hi-hat. Then this donut-shaped disc. Then this one on top. And what you then have is these metal things. When you hit it, they kind of touch each other. So you get a very shaker-like sound with it. It's really. And the other thing is, it's quiet. Other very small hi-hats, when you hit them, they're sometimes like, and they have these overtones just going through. This.
That's your next paid gig.
That's mine. No, that's mine being like, no, it's crasher hats, not learn the name.
Norbit just text you.
Yes.
You got it wrong.
Yes. So yeah, crasher hats, 8-inch. These are the newest ones. I really love them, and yeah.
I'm also going to mention what some people would call vintage, but this is a 10-year-old giant step pedal that you've played multiple. This is like the pedal you take everywhere. Yeah. And it's not even blue anymore. Yeah. And it still works.
Yeah, it looks a little bit beat up, and whatever recording of me you've maybe heard ever, or like the Modern Drummer Festival, or DVDs and blah, like every performance, Meinl Drum Festival, whatever you find out there, it is always this exact pedal. I always pack it, I always take it with me, and it almost starts to fall apart now, but I love it.
Yeah, there's no little red centers, and it's barely blue. But it's got belt drive. It feels really nice.
Yeah, it feels wonderful. It is, yeah, it's my companion I take everywhere. So sticks and this thing is always with me. It's kind of the closest, you know, connecting piece to the instrument I always don't want to worry about.
And you also use 3-legged hi-hats, because the 2 legs are not stable enough for you.
Yes, because I still do this back and forth kind of playing, or sometimes I play the hi-hat and bass drum at the same time, so I really need a stable like hi-hat, and I also don't wiggle the feet away from the double pedal. I really just place it like normally you would place it, just over the pedal, and that way it just stays where it is, and yeah. I'm always, when I'm on tour and I get a 2-legged hi-hat, I'm always like, ugh. So you have to gaffer everything down, and so yeah, that works fine for me.
And then lastly, your stick.
Yes.
Vic Firth and green.
Yes, this is the Vic Firth Benny Greb signature stick. It's basically, I'm of course a little bit biased, but it's I think the best 5B on the market. It's basically a 5B, a little bit modified. It has a thinner and a longer shoulder, or however you want to call it, neck, or all these body parts always. So this thing is longer and shorter, okay? And this is as well shorter and smaller. So the tip is a little bit smaller, so it has a more defined stick sound on the cymbals. And because this is a little bit thinner, it has a little bit more flex and more bounce. So you still get the nice sound and the solid feel of a 5B, but that is a little bit more playable as far as I'm concerned. So I really love this, and I'm really grateful that that they helped me to find this exact shape and everything. I love those.
It's also not to be confused with the Greg Bissonette, because the letters are the wrong way around.
Yeah,
so we ordered a load and got Greg Bissonette ones rather than your ones.
Because the BG and the GB, yeah, don't get that twisted up. But Greg is great, of course, as well. But yeah, if you want this stick, it's the BG.
The green one. So, Benny's going to play this for us, and he's going to make it sound the best you're going to hear. But you should have been at the event, you should have been here tonight. The main man is going to play some drums for us.